Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I thought in honor of spooky season, I would rank every single Scooby Doo movie. I love these movies. They are very special to me as I would watch them a lot as a kid. So I thought I would rank them because why not? There are 38 of these movies, not including the ones released into theaters. So let's get into it. But first, a disclaimer. Please remember this is my opinion. You can disagree, just don't be a jerk about it. I'm going to tier rank these movies starting from F and going to S. And I will be counting the two live action theatrical movies along with the Cartoon Network ones, and I will be counting Scoob. Alright, let's get into it.
Scooby Doo Adventures, the Mystery Man. Tuesday on DVD, not rated.
The plot is basically about the gang discovering a mysterious treasure map that leads them on a hunt for a legendary pirate's treasure. So I think it's a cute idea to change the art style to puppets, and I like how it's supposed to be based on a pup named Scooby Doo, but I don't really care for the plot. It's kind of like a watered down version of Mystery Incorporated, but I think that was the idea to make it like a little bit more family friendly, so I can't blame them. But then again, I just wish it was better. Although I will say Scooby looks adorable in puppet form.
I've been a lot of things before, but I've never been a giant cracker.
The plot follows Scooby and Shaggy. They are recruited by Dynamite and the Blue Falcon to stop Dick Dastardly from wacky races from opening the gates to the underworld. This movie sucks. Oh God, where do I begin? The plot is so dumb. Why are there so many Hanna-Barbera characters? Respectfully, please go away. I hate that they just replaced the whole voice cast and they did stunt casting. Although I do love Zac Efron and Amanda Seyfried. I just hate it that they replaced everyone. Simon Cowell is here a few too many times, and I don't really know why. And yeah, this movie sucks, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Nights.
Okay, I'm not going to go into depth here because it's basically like a bunch of Hanna-Barbera characters telling famous stories, and then the characters are the main characters in the story. So, for example, Magilla Gorilla is Sinbad, and Yogi Bear is in a knockoff Aladdin story. I forget what Shaggy and Scooby do. This movie is just so boring. It should have been called Hanna-Barbera in Arabian Nights and not Scooby Doo in Arabian Nights, because Scooby is barely in it. And the fact that this was Don Messick's last time voicing Scooby just makes me cringe. Alright, moving on.
Scooby Doo and the Curse of the 13th Ghost.
So this is a continuation from the 13th Ghosts of Scooby Doo, which was a show that ran in the 80s, and it got canceled right before its final episode, in which basically the show followed Shaggy, Scooby, Scrappy, Daphne, Vincent Van Gogh, and a kid named Flim Flam as they would try and catch the 13th ghosts that were released from this demon's chest. And the show was canceled before they actually caught the 13th ghost. So this is just, like I said, a continuation. But basically what happens is the gang is selling all their stuff at a garage sale, and they are selling this crystal ball, and Vincent Van Gogh ends up contacting them and being like, wait, we need to catch the 13th ghost. And then Daphne basically has to explain to Fred and Velma, who weren't there, oh, I never brought this up because we were all having panic attacks about it, or Scooby was having panic attacks about it. I know this is supposed to be a good continuation, but it kind of sucks because it's basically just actually it didn't happen and the supernatural isn't real.
Wires. Probably just wires.
Velma, shut up. You tried to pull this in the actual show Supernatural and you were proven wrong. But I will say they didn't completely retcon everything because at one point I think they're just you know what, better not to question it. And it's just, Velma was just so annoying in this movie. And she wasn't even there in the first place. I feel bad for all the people who were really excited about this movie and then just completely let down. But I think some people like this movie. I just personally found it like kind of annoying, and I don't like all the retcons and stuff, and unfortunately we are not done with the retconning yet. So this was supposed to be a treat for the fans in honor of the franchise's 50th anniversary in 2019, but it ended up crashing and burning because, like Curse of the 13th Ghost, it just ruined everything about the original. Because basically, the plot for this movie is the gang is like, oh, we want to go on vacation, or it's like supposed to exist in that same timeline, but they go back to like Moonscar Island, but it's renamed to like Moonstar Island, and then they like want to film like a scary movie over there. I really could not give a plot. I'm so sorry, but like it was just so bad. Like the cool thing about Zombie Island is that it has earned a reputation for being the best in the franchise. And for good reason, I might add. The story is interesting and it's dark. This was the first time in the franchise that monsters were real and taken seriously, and everything about it was so cool. So I think it's very disrespectful to retcon the whole thing and say it never happened and basically just have them say, oh, it was swamp gas that made the cat creatures real. Excuse me, where on earth is there gas in the original? All right, I am so done talking about this movie. I can't.
Scooby Doo meets the Boo Brothers, now on video.
Shaggy inherits like a old plantation from his uncle, so Scooby and Scrappy go along with him to claim the estate, and they discover that not only is the place haunted, but there's also treasure to be found. So Shaggy calls a team of exterminators called the Boo Brothers, and it turns out they're ghosts themselves. This movie was released as part of the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 canon, in which in the 80s they would have like TV movies with different Hanna-Barbera characters. Like they had the Jetsons meet the Flintstones, for an example. But now, personally, I don't care for this movie. I just think the plot is sort of stupid, and it kind of reminds me, though, of Ghostbusters Afterlife, although that movie is leagues better than this one, in the sense that when Spangler dies, he becomes a ghost, but is still a Ghostbuster. So, but again, I just found this plot to be kind of dumb.
Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Look for it on video cassette and DVD.
The only reason this one is higher is simply because the monster characters, because I think their designs are awesome. However, that does not excuse for the terrible plot in which Shaggy is a world-famous race car driver and gets the attention of Dracula because he needs a werewolf for his monster road rally, and the werewolf retired, like right before the race. So he turns Shaggy into a werewolf. Now, this plot sounds awesome, but my god, is this boring. Everything about this movie is just so lame. The plot drags on. This is the longest movie on the list, and the animation is really rough. Now, then again, they weren't thinking in the future, like, oh, we're going to re-release this 5,000 times. So I can't really blame them, but it's so rough that Warner Brothers now has to, like, put a disclaimer on the newer home media releases just to let everyone know, like, this movie's not up to the usual quality. So I think that's funny, but this plot sucks. I hate this movie.
Scooby Doo, Frank and Creepy.
Now, I think this plot is interesting because Velma turns into a mad scientist, and a tons of like weird and somewhat traumatic things, I might add, things happen to the gang. But in reality, it's like all these people that the gang got arrested come back to get revenge on them, which I still think is really funny. But I will say, like, the editing is just so much whiplash at once. It was kind of giving me a headache. And I don't really like the whole, like, fat phobia plot with Daphne. And then people were, like, sexualizing Velma when this movie came out. And it's kind of unfortunate because I really liked this movie as a kid. But, like, watching it now, it's like, ugh. I'm not really a huge fan about it. Sorry. I will say, if you wanted, like, hear more in depth about it, Scoobytopia has a video talking about it, like, much more in depth, so I would go check that out.
Lego Scooby Doo Blowout Beach Bash.
So this is the second Lego Scooby Doo movie in which the gang is going on a much needed vacation, but of course there are ghost pirates once they get to the town, and it's also a musical. Yeah, sorry guys, I just prefer the first one. And don't get me wrong, I love all the like straight to DVD Lego movies. Those ones are just so underrated and or underrated, I think. Um cuz I think the plot's funny. And it's not just with Scooby Doo, like the Batman ones are really funny, but this one's just not for me. Although I will say like some of the jokes are really funny and like the songs are catchy and I like the Lego animation, but if I had to like say like which one I prefer the first one. So,
Scooby Doo. The mystery begins.
all right, we are talking about these movies now. The Mystery Begins premiered on Cartoon Network on September 13th, 2009, and I think this movie was made for the franchise's like 40th anniversary. So, fun fact, this is the most watched telecast in the channel's history for Cartoon Network, so that's funny. But this movie is a Mystery Inc. origin story, and also this teacher wants this like hidden fortune and tries to kill a bunch of high school students for it. So this movie's just a bad version of The Breakfast Club. Kind of ironic considering like one of the stars in this movie went on to be in like a better Breakfast Club parody. This cast is interesting. I feel bad that people give Robbie Amell flack for his Fred. It's not his fault that, he's not blonde and they didn't want to put him in a wig. So that's Cartoon Network's fault. Um, and the best part about this movie, though, is that Haley Kiyoko plays Velma, and I'm convinced this is when people started thinking Velma was a lesbian. Honestly, though, I don't blame them because I love her. I love Haley Kiyoko, so that's the only good thing about these movies.
Scooby Doo. Curse of the Lake Monster. Extended edition.
So this one has the same cast as the previous one, and it basically follows the gang getting jobs at uh, Daphne's uncle's country club. But once they get there, they start to realize some weird behavior from the guests and discover that these amphibian like monsters are attacking the resort. And then later, Velma turns into one of these monsters. Spoiler alert if you care. Now, I actually have seen this movie. I remember watching it when I was little at like my cousin's house. And I'd like also watched the first one, but like this one was a little bit easier to follow for like my kid brain. But it wasn't really that good. It's better than the first one in my opinion, but it's still kind of bad. So if you want like a swamp related Scooby Doo thing, just go play the video game. It's just a lot more entertaining.
Scooby Doo. Shaggy's Showdown.
The gang travels to Shaggy's cousin's ranch, in which it gives tourists like an old western experience. However, the town has taken a nosedive because it's being terrorized by a ghost outlaw named Dapper Jack Rogers, who is Shaggy's ancestor. And people get scared of Shaggy when he's around because they think he's this ghost. Now, I love Shaggy. Fun fact, my last name is also Rogers. So I think it's cute to have like a little family backstory. And I like the Western aesthetic, but I just found it to be a little boring. And if you want to go watch like a Scooby Doo Western related thing, just go watch the What's New episode. Like, because I found that to be a tad bit cooler, but again, that's just me.
Scooby Doo and the Monster of Mexico.
Please put your 2000s pitchforks down when I talk about this movie. So, in this movie, it basically follows the gang going to Mexico to stop El Chupacabra from destroying a Dia de los Muertos celebration. This was the final time that the original Scooby Doo voice cast, so like the people who started the show in the 60s, would come back to voice their characters, aside from Don Messick, who unfortunately passed away in 1997. So the voice actress for Daphne and Velma, Heather North, and Nicole Jaffe, would retire from voice acting following this movie's release. And this was Heather North's final role before passing away in 2017. Now, this is how I would describe the plot. Just picture the most uncultured people coming to a different country, trying their best to understand certain things like an animatronic bird, throwing around cultural appropriation like it's a toy, and then those same uncultured people helping the locals stop a business guy from committing capitalism and to exploit the culture for profit. Now, I know I'm going to get that one comment being like, it's a kid's movie, who cares? And yes, that's valid, but this is my channel, so I don't really care. The villain's main plot in this movie is just a big middle finger, I feel like, to Disney because throughout the movie, they're constantly making jokes about theme parks and how, like, the animatronics for those use stereotypical accents, which is, like, a very common thing that is going on and like that has been going on in Disney for a very long time and I would say still is. And let's not forget that Disney tried to trademark Dia de los Muertos, a literal holiday that they have been celebrating for years because they wanted to sell Coco merchandise. I wish I was joking when I say that. All right, let's move on.
Straight out of nowhere, Scooby Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Now, for those of you who do not know what Courage the Cowardly Dog is, let me explain. It was a show that ran on Cartoon Network from 1999 to 2002, and I remember watching like one or two episodes of the show. So the plot is basically the gang traveling through Kansas and meets Courage, and him and Scooby become friends, and they kind of discover these giant cicadas are taking over the town, and they all team up to stop Cats and Lee Quack, who are two recurring villains in Courage the Cowardly Dog, who planned this whole operation. Now, since I didn't really like Courage as a kid, I didn't have like super high hopes for this movie, but I thought it was nice to have a crossover despite it being really random and like some of the original voice actors came back to reprise their roles, which I thought was nice. Unfortunately, this was Thea White's final acting credit as she died on July 30th, 2021, so the film is dedicated to her in memory.
An exclusive free Scooby Doo comic book with every Scooby Doo Goes Hollywood.
This is technically the first Scooby Doo movie, although many people, including myself, consider it more of a special. So the plot is basically about Scooby getting tired of being like a Saturday morning cartoon. So he tries acting in other 70s related projects, like a detective drama referring to Charlie's Angels, a superhero spoof like Super Scooby, but eventually Fred, Daphne, and Velma convince Scooby to come back to their show and see how important he is. Now, this one is a little higher because I owned it on DVD as a kid, so nostalgia plays a key factor, but I like the idea of it. It kind of reminds me of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit in a way, and I do appreciate the creativity that went into the project, so it gets bonus points for that, but like it's still not my favorite.
Scooby Doo, Music of the Vampire.
So this is our first musical fun fact. This one follows the gang as they go to a vampire festival. I'm 99% convinced that this was Fred's idea. And the festival is run by Vincent Van Helsing, a descendant of the famous monster hunter. Daphne falls in love with an actor in the vampire play, but it turns out to be a real vampire, so he kidnaps Daphne and sacrifices her to the head of the vampires because he wants a new bride. But it turns out it was fake, and the Vincent dude was just behind the whole thing because he wanted to get inspired for his new book. This movie is just I like how most of the cast sang, I will say. I like the opening song and all of the animation, I swear to God, went into Fred's hair in like that opening scene. But other than that, I really just don't care for this movie and I feel really bad, but it's just not my favorite.
Scooby Doo and the Samurai Sword.
The plot follows the gang traveling to Japan to support Daphne in a martial arts tournament, which she was invited to by her pen pal, Miyumi. While there, the ghost of the Black Samurai returns from the grave and begins terrorizing Tokyo, as one does. Now, I don't want to be too hard on this movie because I love the What's New animation, and this was the last movie in the series to use the What's New Scooby-Doo style of animation. But the cultural appropriation, again, it's just so cringy and questionable, but there's nothing I can do about it just because this movie is almost 17 years old. And yeah, but I like the plot. It's interesting. I like how like they travel to a new place, and I think the idea of having Daphne be skilled in martial arts is a great idea. I just wish they gave like a bit of a more explanation or like how like the previous movies kind of like mentioned that, but that's not really the movie. That's not really like my fault, or that's more the writer's fault. However, though, this was unfortunately the final time that Casey Kasem would voice Shaggy, as he retired from the role in 2009, though he returned for a little bit in Mystery Incorporated, but he would prefer to be uncredited at his request. And then he unfortunately later passed away in 2014. He was my introduction to Shaggy, as I would watch What's New Scooby Doo along with Mystery Incorporated, like both as a kid. So, but I am more familiar with his voice. So, but his performance as Shaggy holds a very special place in my heart. So, I just miss him. I think his voice was truly iconic.
Scooby Doo, Mask of the Blue Falcon.
This plot follows the gang at a fan convention for the Blue Falcon and Dynama, and when they get to the convention, they discover that a villain from the classic TV show's first episode comes to life and starts terrorizing people. And since Shaggy and Scooby know so much about them, they are promoted to lead the case, while the rest of the gang takes notes. So I will say, when it comes to the mention of superheroes, it's very meta, but in a way that's not so obvious. Because before Batman was kind of the inspiration for the Blue Falcon when, like, in the 70s or the 60s. But before Batman became, like, super dark and serious, it was silly and fun until Batman and Robin killed that in 1997. So, because in this movie, they mention how the Blue Falcon is getting, like, a new serious adaptation. And, like, in comparison to the campy, like, TV show. So I thought that was funny. And I feel like that's definitely, like, still a conversation a lot of people have in Hollywood when it comes to, like, taking, like, a campy TV show and making it into, like, a gritty, like, action movie. But I like all the jokes in here. I mean, I love superheroes, so I like the plot. It's interesting, and this movie is leagues better than Scoob, or it handles Dynamite and the Blue Falcon so much better than Scoob does.
Be Halloween, Scooby Doo.
So, in the beginning of this movie, the gang arrests Scarecrow. Yes, that Scarecrow. Why is Bro here? I really don't know, but not really a bad thing. He's one of my favorite Batman villains. Eventually, the gang are relaxing at a Halloween festival and discovers that jack-o'-lanterns are coming to life because of a weird green toxic ooze. So now the town is being terrorized by all these pumpkin monsters. Oh, and Bill Nye is here. This movie is, again, kind of weird, but honestly, I love this kind of weird. I like that Bill Nye is here, and Fred has some good scenes. Shocker. Fred's just hilarious. But it's a good time to watch, I would say, for, like, this type of year. But it's not really, again, not my favorite.
Be the same. Aloha, Scooby Doo.
This one follows the gang as they travel to Hawaii because Daphne designed some clothes for a fashion line. While there, an ancestral legend called the Wiki Tiki is summoned and starts terrorizing people along with its little tiny warrior demons. Soon after, a local surfer and his girlfriend go missing, so it's up to the gang to rescue them. Now, again, this movie has some questionable representation, and for me, it's especially cringy considering I grew up visiting Hawaii, and my dad is actually from there. He grew up on the island of Oahu. But I will say I like the cast. The girl who voices Nani in the Lilo and Stitch movies is the voice of, like, the girlfriend. And I like the design of the island. I think that's really pretty. But, like, that's really all I have to say. Also, I just, like, love the What's New era. Like, I love What's New Scooby Doo. So you'll never hear me complain about that.
Look for Chill Out, Scooby Doo.
This one gets bonus points for coming out the year I was born, 2007. So the plot follows Shaggy and Scooby because they were supposed to be on a flight to Paris with the rest of the gang, but actually end up in the Himalayas. While there, Shaggy and Scooby discover from the locals that the abominable snowman is attacking climbers and destroying equipment. So Shaggy and Scooby tag along with Alfonso, Pumbaa, and the professor and hike up the mountain. Oh, and the dude from the Loch Ness Monster movie shows up, so that was cute. This movie's alright. It's not terrible, but, like, it's still not my favorite. But something I do like is there's a reference to Casey Kasem's radio jockey career.
Put down your snow shovel and pick up that thin air guitar. It's time to stay in and rock out.
Along with voicing Shaggy, he was either the announcer or, like, the DJ for Top 40 Radio, so that was a nice little touch. The cast is, again, per usual, amazing, and You got the added bonus of Alfred Molina. I love him. And the guy who voiced the French chef in The Little Mermaid is here. But the thing that makes this movie so funny to me is the person who turns out to be the abominable snowman is only doing it because the Dale dude is like, he has a podcast about trying to prove that the abominable snowman exists. And she was only doing it because she's his number one fan. And like, he like really wants to like see if like this, like if it's real or not. And she was doing that for him. So I thought that was nice. This film was dedicated to Iwo Takamoto as he was the original artist and designer for Scooby because he passed away in January of 2007. And this was the final film produced by Joseph Barbera as he passed away in December of 2006.
Scooby Doo and the Gourmet Ghost.
This one has the gang going up to a culinary academy run by Fred's uncle, Bobby Flay. Yeah, alright. While there, they also run into Giada De Laurentiis to take down a red ghost who is one of Fred's ancestors named Edward Flay. Now, I originally thought it was a weird collaboration because I don't know how many kids watch the Food Network. I watched it a lot as a kid, but that's just me. But honestly, I appreciate the randomness. It's very funny to see these professional chefs coming in to voice themselves. And I was really hungry while watching this movie. No surprise there. So it's entertaining, but really random. But that's okay.
Scooby Doo, the Sword and the Scoob.
The plot follows the gang as they are magically sent back in time to the medieval era, and Shaggy discovers he's a descendant of the legendary knight who thwarted an attempt by the evil Morgan Le Fay. Something I appreciate about this movie is that it doesn't over-explain who King Arthur is or the lore around it. It's just like, yeah, you know who this is. But I enjoy the animation. I like all the bright colors. My favorite thing about this movie, though, is the DVD cover because it doesn't give anything away and it just sets up all the details perfectly. You got a dragon, a sword, Shaggy, and Scooby. Like, perfect.
Scooby-Doo, New Monster Madness.
So in this one, it follows the gang getting invited to go on a spaceship, and a bunch of other people get invited as well. And then a knockoff xenomorph pulls up and starts terrorizing them. And they also go to a hotel on the moon, which is pretty cool. Now, I remember the trailer for this coming out, but I never really watched it. I was probably too busy watching, like, Liv and Maddie. But I think this movie is a lot of fun. I like how they kind of predicted, like, stuff happening in space. Like, oh, we're going to build a hotel in space. Like, we did it first. So I think that's cute. And it's, like, for someone who's never watched Alien and for someone who will never watch it, I hate scary movies. It was a nice little change for the franchise. However, my favorite scene is in the beginning of the movie because, like, that's just me in a nutshell. Although I did not crash anything.
All right.
Scooby-Doo Pirates Ahoy.
The gang go on a cruise to celebrate Fred's birthday, and his parents join them on it. But it turns out the cruise that they thought it was going to be nice and relaxing, it's a mystery cruise, and the gang ruins it in the first 5 minutes because they solve all the mysteries, which is just hilarious.
I don't know what we're gonna do now. You've totally blown my schedule, and we've gone through a week's worth of mysteries in 2 days.
And then pirates hijack the cruise, kidnap everyone, and it's up to the gang to save Fred's parents and everybody else. While investigating, they find out a connection to the Bermuda Triangle. So something I thought was really smart on Warner Brothers' part was this movie came out at the perfect time. What do I mean by this? The sequel to Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, Dead Man's Chest, came out 2 months before this movie. And they wanted to cash in on the pirate craze from that movie. And I think it totally worked. I think this movie is cool. I like how fun it is because, yes, there have been pirates in Scooby Doo before, but I like how they went all in for this one with the aspects of the Bermuda Triangle and the legends around it. And like I said earlier, I'm just a sucker for the What's New Scooby Doo animation, so.
Lego Scooby Doo, Haunted Hollywood.
This one follows the gang going to a movie studio that is known for making these iconic monster movies, but they don't anymore, so they make rom-coms instead. But then, all of a sudden, these monsters from these movies start to come to life. So, for the longest time, I thought this movie came out in 2014. No, it came out in 2016, apparently. But this movie was obviously made for like the Lego Scooby Doo sets that were coming out around that time. I had the Mystery Machine one when I was a kid, but I think ignoring the kind of capitalism take on it, I like this movie. I think it's really cute. I like the Lego animation. I think people need to give credit to the Lego direct to DVD animation. I think it's very pretty. And the plot in general is interesting, I would say. I really want to study film related stuff in college. And I would say this is helpful, like, because for someone who also hasn't seen these iconic monster movies yet, like, I really should watch them, but it's a nice, and then I would say, like, if you have younger kids, like, this is a nice little introduction for, like, them if they're a little too young to watch the iconic monster movies that Universal made back then. So in this one, a bunch of DC villains randomly start showing up in Metropolis, and naturally, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen start freaking out. So Jimmy calls his apparent girlfriend, Daphne, and her friends to come to Metropolis. While there, they meet the iconic dog Crypto the Super Dog, but they also learn of a ghost haunting in the city, so it's up to the gang and Crypto to save the day. So I mentioned this in my last video, but I really did get into DC over the summer. I enjoyed it because I found a new love for all the characters, and I was really into like the TV shows and the movies. So I personally really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really fun. It just had two of my favorite franchises. You got DC and you got Scooby Doo. I would say it's really cool to see Scooby and Crypto together, although I think they've like met each other in the comics, but I didn't read it for these videos, so. And it's always fun to see Lois and Jimmy, so you'll never hear me complain about them. Fun fact, this movie was actually leaked online a year before its release, and as of right now, it's the last direct-to-DVD movie from Scooby-Doo, so that's kind of sad, but I do enjoy the plot, so that's all that matters.
Trick or treat, Scooby-Doo!
So in this one, it seems that the gang has finally caught Coco Diablo, who's been behind all their iconic mysteries. But once they catch her, they don't really know the value of life anymore. They don't have any new mysteries to solve. And then eventually a ghost pops up at a Halloween festival, and the gang are excited again. So I have this movie high primarily because of the cultural significance in this movie, because this is the first movie to confirm that Velma is a lesbian. I don't want to hear the people in the comments being like, that's so woke. Like, Velma and Daphne were supposed to kiss in the live action Scooby Doo movie, and Velma was also supposed to be a lesbian in Mystery Incorporated, but they didn't have enough time to develop her like that. So I like seeing this representation in children's media. I think that I like the new animation switch up just because I haven't seen the Scooby Doo and Guess Who show. But I like that. I think it's really cute. And yeah, I would say it's relatively high just because of that one detail. But yeah, I don't really care. I just love that they finally said that Velma was a lesbian.
Like movie Scooby Doo, Abracadabra Doo.
So this one follows the gang going to visit Velma's little sister Madeline at her magic school. And along the way, they find a banshee-like spirit is kind of terrorizing the school. So it's up to everyone in the school, along with the gang, to stop it, along with their new magic skills. This movie is, I would say, known for a few different things. I would definitely say one of the biggest things is that it's kind of a return to the original art style compared to What's New Scooby-Doo. And the second biggest thing is that this is the first time Matthew Lillard voiced Shaggy. And if you don't know who Matthew Lillard is, why are you watching this YouTube video? I'm kidding. But basically, Matthew Lillard played Shaggy in the 2 theatrical live-action Scooby-Doo movies, and then when Casey Kasem retired in 2009, Matthew took over the role and has been voicing Shaggy ever since. So, again, I think my biggest thing with this movie is, like, it's kind of nostalgic for me because even though, like, I didn't really watch this as a kid, like, I've watched it more recently, I remember the trailers for it, and I just love the early animation style because, again, this was the beginning of the decade. So it's just starting off with a bang, I would say. But I enjoy the plot. I like the inclusion of Madeline, and I like her relationship with Shaggy. I think that's really cute. And she's voiced by Danica McKellar, and I like her. But But not really a whole lot wrong with this movie. It's still not my favorite, but if someone like would put it on TV, I would be like, yeah, I'll watch it.
Big Top Scooby Doo.
So, the gang are on vacation in Atlantic City, but their vacation gets interrupted by some werewolves who are stealing some jewels. And also, the werewolves are harassing this little circus. So the gang join the circus to go undercover. But Shaggy becomes known for his circus act and starts being a little too big for his britches and starts treating Scooby like how Troy treats Chad in High School Musical 2. So I really enjoyed the plot. I found Fred to be hilariously dumb in this movie, but I love that for him. Bless you, Fred. I think Daphne gets kidnapped in this movie, or like the picture I'm about to show you, like I don't know if like she got kidnapped. It's just like something, but like I don't know. I just saw this while I was watching it and I was like, huh? My only really complaint about this movie is that I hate when there's like plots where like Shaggy and Scooby are fighting. It never works, it never has, and it never will. So just like quit while you're ahead, please.
Scooby-Doo and the Goblin King.
This movie is mainly about Shaggy and Scooby, but the gang are also here. Basically, the gang go to a haunted carnival, and this magician guy, right away, is just really rude to Shaggy and Scooby. So, they ruin his show and expose him for being a fake magician. And he is so pissed that he opens this little magic book and summons the Goblin King. And then, yeah, he gets like a bunch of powers and stuff, and he just does a lot of really messed up things. Like, he turns this one good magician into a rabbit. He then turns Fred, Velma, and Daphne into monsters. And then, yeah, he just basically starts terrorizing the world. He kidnaps this little fairy, and it's literally up to Shaggy and Scooby, the two scaredy cats, to save everyone and Halloween, because if they don't do it by 12 a.m., everyone will be stuck like this. Now, some people either hate or love this movie. I personally really like this movie, just because I love the Halloween atmosphere and I enjoy that because, you know, my birthday's in October. And I know that everyone is a big fan of Shaggy and Scooby, but I enjoy them. For in this one, I think they're cute. I will say, like, this movie kind of reminds me of The Black Cauldron. Go watch my YouTube video on the nightmare production of that movie if you haven't. But my favorite thing about this movie is its cast. Stacked. You got like Hayden Panettiere, who I love. You got Wayne Knight, or as I like to call him, the dude from Space Jam. You got Russie Taylor. She was Minnie Mouse. She's also in Scooby Doo and the Ghoul School. She voices Phantasma. And one of the witches in this movie is one of the ladies from Howl's Moving Castle. And probably the biggest one, or the biggest star in my opinion, is Tim Curry is in this movie. I don't really need to explain who Tim Curry is because it would just be a little sad if I had to. But this is his second time returning to the franchise after Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. And this is the first movie since Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase to have real monsters. Seriously, though, if you haven't watched this movie, I would totally recommend. It's like the perfect time of year to watch it right now. And yeah, enough said. I would just say go watch it.
Scooby-Doo, stage fright.
This one follows the gang as they travel to Chicago because Fred and Daphne have made it to the final round of this reality singing competition show. So basically just America's Got Talent or American Idol. But this phantom that used to be in the like place where they're taping the show, like the phantom is from the 70s, starts rigging the competition and destroying or having the other contestants being like set up to fail. So, of course, the gang need to go out and stop whoever this is. Along the way, Fred and Daphne start developing a little blossoming relationship.
Since she's got jungle fever, he's got jungle fever, they've got jungle fever, we're in love.
It's cute to see, I will say. My favorite part about this movie is the little girl with blonde hair. Her name's Chrissy, just because the song she sings is so funny for a kid's movie. And then there's also the fact that if you didn't know, Ariel Winter voices her, and she's also the voice of Sophia the First, and she's Alex in Modern Family. But yeah, this movie is just Phantom of the Opera for kids, but I prefer this to the Phantom of the Opera because it's an easier plot to follow, in my opinion. And the soundtrack just slaps. Not just that one song I mentioned earlier, but I feel like every song in this movie is so catchy.
Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
So this is the sequel to the live-action Scooby Doo movie that came out in 2002, as many of you all know. But the plot follows the gang as they go to their new opening for their museum of all the monsters they've caught. But the monsters come back to life, and everybody kind of hates Mr. Incorporated because these monsters, they start harassing everyone all over again. And the gang need to figure out how this happened in the first place, and they need to stop these monsters again. So I know a lot of people like this one over the first one, so if any millennials are watching this video, please put your pitchforks down. I personally do enjoy this movie, but I do prefer the first one. But the main thing I love about these movies in particular is that they just commit to being super campy and over the top, and it's amazing. But also, this cast is just awesome. Some may say fantastic.
Say that again?
However, in my opinion, one of the best parts about this movie is that little tiny Kayla Morthy, yes, Des from Austin and Ally, is in this movie, and I find that hilarious. It's kind of sad we never got a third one because I really would have loved to see it with this same cast and James Gunn writing again. I still can't believe James Gunn wrote these movies. You went from a talking dog who solves mysteries to a group of people who listen to music and travel the galaxy while killing a bunch of alien monsters.
In Scooby Doo and the Legend of the Vampire.
The gang traveled to Australia to go to a music festival called Vampire Rock. However, when the bands for the event start disappearing, it's up to the gang to figure out what's going on. So this one is primarily high because of one reason and one reason only. The Hex Girls are here. I love them so much, but aside from them, it's a pretty decent plot. I enjoy all the vampire stuff, and the main ones, the main big vampire, he reminds me of a Chernobog from Fantasia. And something I do find funny is that the people who turned out to be behind the attack, they just give the rest of the bands free snorkeling passes and not hold them hostage. So good job, vampires. This, and like I mentioned earlier, Monster of Mexico would be the last time the original voice cast, again aside from Don Messick, would voice their characters. And this is also the first movie in the franchise to use the What's New Scooby Doo art style, or the cell animation. So I like that.
Scooby-Doo and WWE Curse of the Speed Demon.
The gang head to the Muscle Moto X Off-Road Challenge. While there, they meet up with their WWE friends from WrestleMania Mystery. Teams of WWE superstars race in custom cars throughout dangerous deserts, but when a demonic-looking driver starts sabotaging the competition, it's up to Shaggy and Scooby and the superstars to get things back on track. No pun intended. So I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, so I was excited to watch it, and it still holds up in my opinion. This movie, along with WrestleMania Mystery, introduced me to WWE when I was little, so I'm familiar with all those superstars. Personally, my favorite is Paige in this movie. She's just so pretty, and she is just always going after The Miz or punching him in this movie, so I thought that was funny. Some interesting facts about this movie is that Hulk Hogan was supposed to be in this movie, but because of his racist comments, he was let go from the project and from the WWE. I just want to put it out there. I do not like this guy. And unfortunately, though, this was Dusty Rhodes' final role as he passed away in 2015. So the film is dedicated to him in memory.
Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School.
This is the second Scooby-Doo movie following the Boo Brothers to be in the Hanna-Barbera's Superstars 10 canon. And in my opinion, it's the best one. In this one, Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy go to a boarding school because Shaggy got hired to be a gym teacher here. But what they don't realize is when they get there that the school is for monsters. Girl monsters to be more specific. And that the girls are the children of famous monsters. Like an example, Dracula and his daughter Sabella. But they eventually get the hang of it and start to have fun. But they are being watched by Revolta, an evil witch who wants to kidnap the girls and turn them pure evil. So I think this movie is adorable, first of all, And I really like how, even though Shaggy and Scooby hate monsters and even try to quit right when they get there, they end up actually caring for the girls and forming this like cute little bond. I would say the most accurate thing about the boarding school aspect is the dorm parent making brownies, because that's what my dorm parent does. And fun fact, over 30 years later, the girls returned to Cartoon Network in OKKO Let's Be Heroes, with some of the girls' voice actresses even coming back. This movie reminds me a lot of Monster High, and I think Mattel should make the girls into like dolls for collectors. That would be really cool. So if anyone from Mattel is watching this video, like, come on, please.
Scooby Doo and Batman, the Brave and the Bold.
The gang team up with Batman as he invites them to join the Mystery Analysts of Gotham City. However, during the initiation, a mysterious ghost villain from Batman's past, known as the Crimson Cloak, starts to seek revenge. So the gang and Batman and his friends must come to stop him. OMG, I love this movie. Mainly because I really enjoyed the Brave and the Bold TV show, and all of the cast from that show came back to reprise their roles. But I like how both groups play off of each other really well. I think they all are very entertaining, and there's good moments for both fans, and there's references from both franchises that everyone will find funny. This movie was made to celebrate both franchises because they've been meeting up for a long time, and it's honestly really sweet. The Brave and the Bold has that kind of serious and silly tone, like that the Batman like 60s show is known for, but like it also brings that kind of silliness back. And it works really well. So I would definitely recommend going to go watch The Brave and the Bold if you haven't.
Scooby Doo and the Loch Ness Monster.
So this one follows the gang going to Scotland to meet up with Daphne's cousin Shannon as they get ready for the Highland Games. However, their vacation takes a scary turn when the fabled Loch Ness Monster starts to appear and scares everybody. So I first watched this movie when I was like 7, and I haven't seen it since. So this one was just a lot of fun. I like how we learn more about Daphne's family. And the dude I mentioned earlier in Chill Out is here because he starts out being interested in Nessie. I don't know if anybody has seen the movie The Water Horse, but it kind of reminds me of this movie, just in the sense with the whole like Loch Ness Monster. So I was thinking about that while I was watching this. Yeah, this one's very nostalgic for me. I think Shaggy and Scooby are really funny in this one. And there's this one scene that I always remember. This guy is yelling at like the top of his lungs.
For the last time, there is no such thing as the Loch Ness Monster!
And then, fun fact, this was Mindy Cohn's first time as Velma, as she would voice her until 2015. So this was her first movie because she obviously was voicing her in What's New, Scooby Doo, but I don't know. She is my favorite Velma, I would say. She's just so funny. I love her.
Scooby Doo and the Cyber Chase.
This is a continuation to the first 3 Scooby Doo movies, and it follows the gang visiting their friend Eric at his college because he made a video game based on kind of their job and what they do. But when a mysterious phantom virus escapes from the digital world and begins to wreak havoc on the lab, the gang, while trying to stop the virus, accidentally gets sent into the digital world and have to complete 10 levels to stay alive. At one point, they even meet their past selves from the 60s. This was the last Scooby-Doo animated movie with traditional hand-drawn cell animation. They switched to digital ink and paint following this film's release. This was also the last movie that co-founder William Hanna had involvement in, as he passed away in March of 2001, so this film was dedicated to him in memory. My favorite fact, though, about this movie is that this was Grey DeLisle's debut for Daphne. Unfortunately, though, following Mary Kay Bergman's passing in 1999. Grey still voices her today, and she will forever be my Daphne.
Scooby-Doo and Where's My Mummy?
The gang visit Velma in Egypt, as she has been working on restoring the Great Sphinx and uncovering a secret chamber belonging to Cleopatra. Some Tomb Raiders stop by and try to get the gang and Velma's new friend Omar involved in a mummy curse. So the gang needs to band together, stay alive, and not get turned into stone. This movie is just so good. Some people don't really like it, but I really enjoy this one. The plot is very cool. It's like The Mummy and Indiana Jones, but for kids. And the plot twist is just insane. Spoiler alert, Velma turns out to be the monster. We got like a Lara Croft Tomb Raider type of character, and she's voiced by Christine Baranski, and I love her, which is like, that alone gets bonus points. And then Odette Fier from the 1999 Mummy, he's in this movie, and he voices a similar character to like the person he played in The Mummy. And then another really cool thing about this movie is that it actually got like a limited theatrical release, so that was really cool. Like, it got to be in theaters for a bit. That's awesome.
Scooby Doo and Kiss Rock and Roll Mystery.
The gang traveled to Kiss World, which is a high-tech amusement park run by the rock band Kiss, to see this special Halloween concert. But when a Crimson Witch starts haunting the park and threatens to stop the show, the gang teams up with the band, who are mystery solvers themselves. Now, this plot sounds ridiculous and dumb, but it's just so much fun. They have Kiss doing these like magical girl transformations, and like, it's just so weird, and they have this like magic space rock. It's insane. The band voices themselves, and this is the second time that they have been in the franchise, because they were previously in What's New, Scooby Doo, although I think Paul Stanley was the only one like actually talking in that episode. I just really love this movie. It introduced me to Kiss and their music. My favorite song is I Was Made for Loving You, and I know all the members now because of this movie. Unfortunately, though, this was the last movie with Mindy Cohn as Velma. I do enjoy Kate Micucci, but I think Mindy's Velma has always just been for me because it's like my childhood. But the only thing I don't really like about this movie is like, I don't like how Daphne just makes out with Paul Stanley. I think that's gross. I don't want to hear it in the comments being like, it's a cartoon, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's weird. But yeah, overall, I just really love this movie.
Scooby Doo WrestleMania Mystery.
Okay, so just some quick context before I explain the plot. So, starting in 2014, Warner Brothers collaborated with the WWE on direct-to-video movies that feature some Hanna-Barbera characters in them, like Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, and the Jetsons. These movies were produced through WWE's film division, and then Warner would handle everything else. They did this because WWE wanted to broaden its demographic, especially with children and families, and make toys, to keep the brand somewhat wholesome. Scooby and the Flintstones specifically have a long-standing appeal among kids and adults, making them the perfect fit for these projects. I guess nobody cares about the Jetsons. Getting to the plot, though. After Shaggy and Scooby beat a wrestling video game, the whole gang tags along for a vacation to WWEC and receive free tickets to WrestleMania. But once they discover the city is being terrorized by a glowing ghost bear and threatens to ruin the main event, per usual, it's up to the gang and their new wrestling friends to stop him before the final match. Now, let me just say, I love this movie. I watched it right after it came out, and I didn't really know what the WWE was before, so I learned about everybody they mentioned, and then also, like, the only one I really knew going into this movie as a kid was John Cena, just because all of the memes when I was little. But this movie is just tons of fun. I love how the gang interacts with all the superstars. The dialogue is just absolute cinema. And I like the designs of the WWE superstars, and they look great, and I feel like they match their real-life counterparts. I will say AJ Lee is my favorite superstar, not only in the movie, but in real life. Who else is excited that she's back? I love how they played her entrance song while she's training Shaggy and Scooby. And I like that she got to voice act because her ring name is actually taken from a popular like anime voice acting dub whose last name is Lee. Daphne has a crush on John Cena, very relatable. And every time I think about this movie, I always think about the line,
Is that a bear?
I just always found that funny. So yeah, just go watch this movie. It's just such a fun time. And then the other few WWE produced stuff with Hanna-Barbera is you got, following this movie, you had the Flintstones and WWE Stone Age SmackDown, like I mentioned earlier, Curse the Speed Demon, and then lastly, the Jetsons and WWE Robo WrestleMania, which is the first Jetsons related project in 30 years, which is crazy.
Scooby Doo Camp Scare.
In this one, the gang are becoming counselors at Fred's old summer camp, and Fred is really excited to have this experience. But they quickly learn that the campfire legends are coming to life. The woodsmen and the fishmen start wreaking havoc, as one does at a summer camp. So the gang clearly realize somebody wants them out. As they investigate, they uncover secret tunnels, rival camps, and a mystery that ties into the camp's long forgotten past. So, if you're like me and who hates horror movies, this is like the kid-friendly version of Friday the 13th or that sleepaway camp horror movie that came out in the 80s. But this movie is just awesome. Let me just say, it has some good jump scares, I would say, for a kid's movie. I went to sleepaway camp for a really long time, so I feel like I had that kind of cute little connection towards it. But aside from that, I really like all the characters in it. They're well written. The three little kids that actually like show up to this camp are voiced by, two of them are voiced by like Scott Menville and Tara Strong, who voiced Robin and Raven in Teen Titans. And then the other boy is voiced by Mark Hamill. I love Mark Hamill, and I just don't have any complaints about this movie, and I prefer this to Friday the 13th any day of the week, although I'm born on Friday the 13th, so...
Scooby Doo.
I mean, is anyone really surprised this is in the top 5? No. So this one follows the gang. After solving another case, they get into an argument and break up and split for 2 years. However, each member receives a mysterious invitation to Spooky Island, a tropical resort owned by the eccentric Emil Mondavarius. Strange things are happening there, college students behaving oddly, as if they are possessed. The gang is reluctant to reunite to investigate one last mystery together. As they explore the island, they encounter monsters, secret rituals, and a plot that could threaten the entire world. It's up to Scooby and his friends to solve the evil plan and potentially rebuild their friendship. Where do I even begin how iconic this movie is? From its cast, its production design, its plot, and the soundtrack. Everything about it is just gorgeous. Daphne is my favorite character, but I also do love Velma. But Matthew Lillard steals the show here. He is just that guy, and I love him for it. I also love that Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar got married right after this movie, so that's adorable. I think it's so funny, though, that this movie like got really negative reviews like when it first came out, and everybody loves it. So I love a good cult following.
Scooby Doo, Legend of the Fentasaur.
So, following a recent mystery that scares Shaggy so badly he can't stop screaming, a doctor diagnoses Shaggy with acute fear overload. He's literally too scared to be scared anymore. To help him recover, Velma sends the gang to a spa town in the desert for some relaxation. But when they arrive, the gang stumbles on a new mystery. The locals are terrified by a phantom dinosaur, the legendary Phantasaur, a glowing ghostly raptor that appears to guard hidden treasure near an old dog site, as of bikers tearing through the desert and a rich businessman trying to buy up the land. When Shaggy accidentally gets hypnotized into becoming fearless, chaos ensues, and fearless Shaggy becomes a martial arts master, a bike legend, and a monster fighter, while Scooby tries to keep up. Now, you're probably all thinking, why the hell do you have this movie so high? But let me explain. This was the first Scooby Doo movie I ever watched as a kid. I remember watching it at my dad's old office, and I was eating like Apple Jacks, and I remember the dinosaur. But I have seen this movie since like the first time, obviously, and I genuinely do love this movie. First of all, the plot is just, again, ridiculous, but I don't really care because it kind of works in like this ridiculous way. You're gonna tell me a group of teenagers are going to solve a case about a ghost dinosaur? Hell yeah! I love that it focuses on Shaggy and how he becomes like brave when a certain word is said. Some of the cutaway gags are also really, really funny.
It illustrates all three of Newton's laws of motion.
Some interesting facts I would say is that Shaggy's character in this movie became a meme called Ultra Shaggy, and then it got to the point where people started referencing like Mortal Kombat, and then even Matthew Lillard himself, like the Ultra Shaggy meme, appears in a Mortal Kombat movie, which is really funny. And then probably my favorite fun fact, though, is that Matthew Gray Gubler, Dr. Spencer Reed is here, and I am so happy you have no idea. So, again, I just love this movie.
Scooby Doo and the Alien Invaders.
While driving through the desert, the mystery machine breaks down near the small town of Scorpion Ridge, New Mexico, also known for its UFO sightings. That night, Shaggy and Scooby witness what appears to be a real-life alien spaceship landing and are chased by mysterious glowing aliens. As the gang investigates, they meet Crystal and Amber, a nature photographer, and her golden retriever, who take a liking to Shaggy and Scooby. Government agents working near the local UFO research facilities, and the town's locals, who all seem to have their own theories about the creatures. But things get weirder when the gang finds strange rocks, desert caves, and government cover-ups that suggest something much deeper is going beneath the surface. I mean, no one should really be surprised this one is so high. It's just so iconic. Crystal and Amber are so much fun. I kind of wish they could come back. They were just really cute characters. I like them. I like the twist with them as well. I'm not really going to give it away, but if you know, you know. And I find that it's cute when they save Fred, Daphne, and Velma, and Shaggy and Scooby are helping them. And the little song that Shaggy sings is adorable. I love that. Again, Mark Hamill's here, the GOAT. Love him. This, unfortunately, though, was Mary Kay Bergman's final role as Daphne, as she passed away in November of 1999, so the film is dedicated to her in memory.
Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
The gang are invited to travel to Oak Haven, Massachusetts by Ben Ravencroft, a famous horror novelist. Ben claims the town is haunted by the ghost of his ancestor, Sarah Ravencroft, who was accused of witchcraft centuries ago. The gang thinks it's a hoax at first, but as they investigate, they discover that Sarah's ghost may actually be real, and that Ben's intentions are much darker than they seem. Now, again, it's not really surprising that this one is so high. I mean, it's just so iconic. Dare I say, a lot of people think this is more iconic than Zombie Island. I'm not one of those people, but anyways. This movie is awesome. There's just so much to love. I love how dark the animation is. It's just really surprising. It's so pretty and gorgeous. I always find, like, the witch trials stuff, like, really cool to learn about, and this is the first time the Hex Girls are here. This is a huge bonus in my opinion. So, and the GOAT, Tim Curry, is here. He plays Ben Ravencroft, and my gosh, does he do an amazing job. So yeah, this is another one I totally recommend for watching, like, for Halloween. I mean, like, the original four, like, I would totally watch all of them during this year, but, like, I would also especially say this one. So I really enjoyed it. Interesting fact about this movie, though, is that this is the only movie out of the original 4 direct-to-DVD movies that was not dedicated to someone, as the rest of the films in this little quadrilogy were dedicated to someone who either passed away, like, after, or was, like, a voice actor or a crew member who worked on the film.
Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
After years of unmasking fake ghosts, the gang decides to split up. Fred and Daphne now have their own TV show where they go across the country to find real hauntings. And Fred thinks it's a cute idea to have the gang come back together after being apart for 2 years. So they all reunite for Daphne's birthday. The gang travel to Moonscar Island, a remote swampy island in the Louisiana Bayou, invited by a woman named Lena Dupree, who claims it's haunted by a ghost pirate, Morgan Moonscar. At first, the gang thinks it's just another silly person in a mask, but they eventually quickly realize that this one is much different from what they were expecting. Lena and Simone, the other lady on the island, turn out to be werecats, cursed by immortal survivors of a colonized massacre. They've been luring victims to the island ever since to drain the life force out of them during a ritual to stay alive. So the zombies are actually trying to warn the gang to get out or go away. It's no surprise that this movie is number 1. It brought the Scooby-Doo franchise back to life, and it brought new interest into the franchise because this movie is just, so many things started because of it. And, you know, a lot of things were just pushed out for it because all of the movies I mentioned in this video, they would not have happened if it were not for this movie. and it's just awesome. It's a masterpiece. From its story, its plot, its music, its dialogue, the jokes, everything about it is just perfect. Um, and I will always love to rewatch this movie. I kind of made a joke about this movie being like, is this Get Out but for kids? And yeah, I would say this is Get Out but for kids. So please, if you haven't seen this movie, I know I have said it about a billion times in this video, but for this one, please go watch it. It is so entertaining. I cannot stress about it enough. Like, everyone that I can think of, like, that has seen this movie just has nothing but love for it. So please go watch it. So that was all the movies for this video. I would say I enjoyed making this. It was definitely fun to go back and rewatch part of my childhood. So let me know in the comments what you all think about my list. But again, please be respectful. Or comment what your favorite Scooby Doo movie is. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.